Now you're very welcome back to the show. So we're going to talk a bit more about the Carabao Cup final. Very happy to bring in Republic of Ireland international, former Liverpool player, Jason McAteer. Hey Jason, good to talk to you.
How are you, pal? You okay?
Yeah, very well. So we might start here on Caoimhin Kelleher, man of the moment. Just have a listen. This was Jurgen Klopp in his press conference afterwards.
Alisson Becker is the best goal in the world for me. There are good goalies out there, but this goalie is absolutely insane. But to be 100% honest, for me, is Caoimhin Kelleher the best number 2 in the world as well, especially for the way we play. And he had an incredible game. People asked me rightly before the final, like 2 weeks ago or something, if we will give Caoimhin another game to get some rhythm or whatever. And actually, to be 100% honest, it was the first time when I thought about it. Oh, yeah, there's no rhythm. But that's life of a number 2, especially of a young number 2. That you just have to be ready when you are called. And the game he played tonight was absolutely incredible. I'm at least, sorry, so many questions. I'm not 100% sure I have the full story of the whole game, but I can remember at least 2 incredible saves. Probably were more. So he proved that the decision to line him up was absolutely right. And then in a very spectacular penalty shootout, he showed the whole range of his skill set. First and foremost, he's a goalkeeper, so he saved one. But before that, he finished one off with his really skilled feet and top class.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp there. Caoimhin Kelleher, for his part, Jason, said it was more of a hit and hope job.
What was the hit and hope, John? What did he mean, hit and hope?
The penalty. They were asking him, you were played outfield when you were younger. Did you channel your younger days? And he said, no, it's hit and hope.
Well, we got him. We were pitch side doing Liverpool TV. And as you know, I'm big friends with John Achterberg, who's the head goalkeeper coach at Liverpool. So we speak to each other. Go on, my kids are walking in now. They're so happy as well. My kids, they were ringing me right through the game. So we got John over, and we talked to him just before we went on air. And I said, get Caoimhin to come over, and he said, okay. So he came over, and we done an interview with him. It was great. I mean, he was so laid back. I think he was more nervous coming on the channel than actually being picked for the game and playing playing the whole game, and then taking the penalty. And we asked him about the penalty, and he said he seen Kepa move, and he obviously must have changed his mind. And he stuck it, he stuck into the back of the net, which was fantastic. But it was just the whole story of this Carabao Cup run. Obviously, Minamino has taken some of the headlines, being sort of the player for Liverpool in this tournament that has scored the most goals, and it's his tournament. But for me, it was obviously Caoimhin Kelleher. I've got a special place for him as well, being Irish. We haven't had, an Irish player feature, I think, since Steve Finnan, I think. So it's great to have him around the club. Unfortunately, it's not so great that he's behind the world's best keeper and he gets limited game time. And I've got kind of split sort of emotions about that, really, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But as far as the penalty was concerned, mate, he said he changed his mind last minute. But I think being a centre-forward as a kid certainly helped him, because he took it like a centre-forward and then obviously done enough to get Kepa to put him off and miss the penalty and win the cup. And it was certainly down to him. And it was that fairy tale story that we all hoped for. That was the outcome.
You said there you're close to the Liverpool goalkeeping coach. So obviously, I'd say you've been aware of Kelleher coming for quite some time, and now we're all starting to see him over the last while. Is he Premier League standard? I mean, will there be Premier League clubs asking Liverpool if they're interested in parting ways with him? Can we say that at this stage now?
Absolutely. I mean, he's slotted in above Adrian and become and rightly so, the number 2 goalkeeper. And he's actually a really laid back kid. He takes everything in his stride. He comes out and warms up as we're live on air, and he just gives the little thumbs up now and again, which is great. He's fully focused. He's very professional. I've seen him grow in stature and physically. His body is, he's shot up as well since we first seen him, and he's filled out. His body's getting adjusted to life in the first team and in the Premier League and training every day, which is great. And at Liverpool, they get all the dietitians are there, and excuse me, the sports scientists are there to help him out. And he's got great people around him. John Achterberg's there, as I mentioned before, he's like a professor of goalkeeping. John just never goes home. He just stays at the training ground and just studies goalkeeping. So, and he's got the backing of Adrian, he's got the backing of Alisson, and they love him as well. You know, they treat him as a proper character around the place, and you know, they've got their arm around the shoulder for him because they know it's difficult because game time is very limited. But I'd certainly say Premier League teams are looking after him, Joe, or looking out for him, Joe, I would certainly say that.
Man, he's calm on the ball and good on the ball, isn't he? Like Klopp was even saying it is difficult when you get no rhythm and you're thrown into these big games, which makes it doubly difficult. But pretty much from day one in a Liverpool jersey, he has just looked like he has the trust of the defenders when he has the ball at his feet, which is really impressive. Someone that young, I mean, lots of very, very good goalkeepers have had horrible mishaps with balls at their feet, and he looks the real deal in that department.
This was it yesterday. You know, we knew a while back that he was going to start the game. You know, we'd done a couple of shows and we spoke about him in the build-up. And I was a bit, you know, it's the cup final. You know, the quadruple is still on. You know, to gain momentum, to win this. It's a big competition after COVID for us to celebrate. Obviously, we didn't get to celebrate the league. So we knew there was going to be a lot of hype around the game. And, you know, it is a step up from dropping in to play a Champions League game or a Premier League game. You know, to play a final for Liverpool was a massive call. And I actually thought the manager might go for Alisson and just take him out of the team. But we found out early doors that he was going to play. So obviously he would have been preparing mentally for that. But like you said, not being in the team and not getting enough game time, you can look a little bit rusty and you don't want it to go wrong for him either. You don't want the fairy tale to all of a sudden collapse and he makes a mistake and he makes the headlines for all the wrong reasons, cost Liverpool the cup and all this, as we see. But the day went really well. I mean, reaction-wise, he's fantastic. You know, he's very calm in his decision-making. He's very controlled, methodical the way he goes about things. And to be a modern-day keeper, as you know, boys, you've got to be able to play with your feet. And I think, you know, growing up as a centre-forward and playing outfield obviously has certainly helped him. But John works a lot, you know, behind the scenes. I've seen them train. He works a lot with the feet, distribution, short passing, you know, left foot, right foot. He's very confident with his left foot, as you've seen yesterday. You know, his distribution yesterday was great. And his decision-making is fantastic. When to come for a ball, you know, them decisions. He's got it all in the locker. And I mentioned before about my split sort of feelings about it. Of course, I want him to stay around the club. Of course I do. He's arguably, like Jürgen said, the best number 2 in the Premier League. But I want him to go and have a career. I want him to go and enjoy his football life and play week in, week out. And I don't see him doing that at Liverpool. And he's going to come to a crossroads where he's going to have to make that decision. And we'll have to see what he decides to do. But, you know, I can't talk more highly as a goalkeeper, but also as a person as well. He's a great kid. He's a fantastic kid.
Yeah. We might be at that crossroads. I mean, you wonder now what more he can gain from being number 2. He's kind of ticked a lot of boxes here. Would Liverpool be willing to sell him to Premier League teams is another question mark.
I don't think they'd want to sell him at all. You know, and I think the way Jürgen's handling him, you know, he's thrown him into the Carabao Cup final yesterday. I mean, you know, maybe he might have thrown his toys out the pram and thought enough is enough if he'd not been selected yesterday. But, you know, Jürgen's made that decision. He's a big part of the squad. And that's the big thing about a manager, isn't it? You know, Sir Alex Ferguson had it in abundance, is keeping the players out of the team, is keeping them happy. That's the secret. And, you know, we've got a manager who's managing to do that with all the players through the squad. And Caoimhin is obviously a part of that. And he's keeping him happy. He seems to be happy. Is he at that crossroads? He probably is, because you've got to think, like, after yesterday, the elation of playing in that final and playing in that game is only going to whet the appetite, isn't it? It's only going to whet the appetite to think, I want to play week in, week out, and, you know, I want to be part of something. I want to play in front of 40,000, 50,000 every week. But that's a big decision he's going to have to make, I think.
Yeah, it sure is. What about the game generally then? I mean, as 0-0 draws over 120 minutes go, is pretty good stuff.
Oh, man, well, you know, we built the game up. There've been fantastic Premier League games between the two, and the 1-1 and the 2-2. And really going into the game, form-wise, there was nothing really between them. You know, both sets of teams and defensive records were very, very good. I think Chelsea were 4 clean sheets out the last 6. I think Liverpool are second behind City with clean sheets. So defensively, it was always going to be a tough ask to score goals for each team. I felt Liverpool had more in that front area. The big call was Lukaku going to play? How was he going to get Mason Mount in the team? Tuchel for Klopp, the big calls was obviously Jota, does he start? And obviously you play centre half, was it Matip or Konate? But when the teams quickly come out, it was evident how they were both going to set up and what the plan was. And I thought it was like two heavyweights throwing punches. I thought Chelsea come out swinging, probably had the best of the first 15 minutes. And probably if you look back at the game, Mason Mount should have had a hat-trick, in all honesty. Mendy makes that unbelievable save from Mane then, when Liverpool start throwing punches. And it was just backwards and forwards. And as you said, Joe, I think it was the best 120 minutes, a 0-0 draw you'll ever see. And then it goes to penalties and, the Kepa situation, everyone's still talking about it now. I think it was, obviously he's a bit more of a specialist with Mendy, but I also think Tuchel likes to play on the psychological side of the game. And I think bringing him on may have thought, we're planting a bit of a seed in the Liverpool's players here and psychologically we'll have the advantage. But the Liverpool players have been in this situation, maybe not in penalty shootouts, but have been in this big sort of emotional situation, psychological situation before. And I think you see with the penalties, Fab with his little Panenka, and then the Verge, he gave him a postage stamp to hit it and he put it right in the middle of it, didn't he?
What was your read on that? And Van Dijk looked back at him as almost to say, show me a bit more professional courtesy, pulling a stunt like that with me, not too impressed with that, and that's why I stuck it in that side anyway. I mean, just by the law of physics, I'm going to ask you what you would have done. I might have gone for the other side thinking, well, it's going to be harder for him to get over there. So there was a real alpha statement there on Van Dijk's part, which was absolutely hilarious when it worked out. But say it had been saved, you would be kind of thinking, maybe you should have gone the other side.
Well, it is the cat and mouse, isn't it? When a goalkeeper shows you a big space, he's asking you to hit it in there. And it is that cat and mouse, isn't it? And as you said, Verge is very alpha, isn't he? But also calm and will take on the challenge. And I personally think the look back was, there might have been something in the individual penalty, but Kepa, I thought Stuart Atwell, over the game, the whole game and even into the penalties was poor, to be honest. He let a lot of things go. The game could have panned out differently had he made big calls with yellow cards early doors. I think, he made a few decisions wrong. Obviously, VAR was called into play, and I personally still think the Lukaku goal should have counted. But then again, I think, the Liverpool goal, Matip's goal should have counted as well. So, we can cancel each other out there, but two wrong decisions. But the penalties, Kepa was trying to obviously psych out the Liverpool players and he just wouldn't go on his line. And, it was doing my head, and it was quite evident that Atwell was, just letting him get away with it. He should have booked him. He should have booked him after the second or third time and just said, listen, enough is enough now. Get on your line, and stop acting up. And I think a bit of that was Verge just looking back at him, just saying, have a bit more respect for the whole situation, to be honest.
Yeah. So if you were in that situation and goalkeeper is standing over on one side dramatically, what side are you going down?
I don't know why you're asking me, John. I was the worst penalty taker in the world.
No,
I still would have missed. I take the gap, I think.
I'm the gap all day.
I go for the big space, yeah. But I would have scored because he still went for the small side, didn't he?
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned the quadruple there. If you'd been talking about quadruple from a Liverpool perspective a month ago, people would have said, what do you best of luck with all that. And now suddenly here they are in incredible form and within touching distance of all of them. Obviously still an incredibly difficult thing to do. But their form has really gone up several notches, obviously, of late. You're watching them very closely. What would you say has changed in Liverpool over the last month and a half in comparison with when they were maybe that bit more liable for a wobble here and there?
Well, I think, first of all, when you sign for Liverpool, your brief as a Liverpool player is obviously to give 100% and perform, but it's to win everything that's on offer. That's the football club. That's the mentality of the football club. Obviously it's a very difficult thing to do. No one's done it after the quadruple, but that would be the aim, is to clear up. I think now we look at the Carabao Cup and we talk about priorities. Obviously the Premier League, Champions League will switch amongst players. I think for the club, I think the Premier League and then the Champions League, then the FA Cup and then the Carabao Cup. The Carabao Cup, I think, for Liverpool, and I've got a big thing about this. I think reserve team football is gone. So there's only so far you can take young players before you get to a point where you've got to throw them in somewhere to play in front of 40,000, because playing in front of big crowds is a part of the learning curve for a young player. Can you handle it? Can you handle a situation? Can you handle the pressure, the emotion of being out there? Then it's obviously playing in big games where there's a lot on it. Can you handle that pressure as a young player? Reserve team football would give you a lot more than academy football. You go to the 19s, up to the 23s, and then it stops. And then the manager has to make a decision. And obviously we see the big clubs using the competition. People will say it, it's like they've got a bit of lack of respect, but they've got to throw them in somewhere. They've got to test them. They've got to have a look at them. And the Carabao Cup serves that purpose. Now, in saying that, Joe, Liverpool, over Jurgen Klopp's tenure, has obviously used the competition for that. But obviously, he's used it to get players up to speed, players who have come in like Minamino. You could say Oxlade-Chamberlain, players like Keita, Canate. They've been used in this competition to get them up to speed in the Jurgen Klopp style, to all of us have the confidence to throw them in a big game, in a Premier League, Champions League game. So I think what we're seeing now at Liverpool is we're bearing the fruits of that over the last 4 seasons. And we've got a squad now that's very capable of competing, but also winning these competitions. Now, I don't fear anybody now when we play an arguably a weaker team. Now, you look at the team that might play tomorrow against Norwich, after all the emotion that we've gone through, Wednesday, after all the emotion that we've gone through with the Carabao Cup, there will be changes. Curtis Jones will come in, Minamino will come in, maybe Origi, Joe Gomez, Canate, James Milner. Now, all of a sudden, you look at that team and you go, wow, that should be winning this game. Where, maybe 3 years ago, we probably had 5 or 6 kids. Tyler Morton would be in. Gordon would have played. Curtis Jones would have played. Harvey Elliott. I mean, you take Harvey Elliott now. I mean, he wasn't even in the squad yesterday. He takes one of the penalties. He comes on. He sort of fight out with Rudiger, and then he's all of a sudden he's in the mix of it. And what a player he is! He's right up to speed now. So we've got this squad now that's got the ability to, for me, can they win the quadruple? I think they can with this squad. It's the strongest squad Jurgen Klopp's ever had, and it should be competing on all levels.
Okay, interesting couple of months ahead. Listen, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
How are you, boys? Anyway, I've not seen you for a while.
We're all right. We're hanging in there. I mean, been an interesting couple of years.
It has, mate, hasn't it? Yeah. I've not seen you for long. I still can't see you now because as technology has moved on, I'm looking at a blank screen.
Are you? Okay, sorry. I thought we were looking at each other here. Well, you look good.
Oh, you look good as well. I can't see you, but I'm sure you are.
Thanks.
You never age.
I'll send you a pic. Thanks. Jason McAteer with us there on the Football Show, which is, as ever, brought to you by Sky. Don't miss Crystal Palace Stoke in the FA Cup tomorrow live on Premier Sports.